that personal connection, that feeling you have with someone special, and that's why it's called Between Us. So it can be between you and me, it can be between
I love that.
you and your family member, it can be a friend. Because I was at university studying finance, and it was like either DJ for a couple of hours a week or work in a bar for like way longer. So I chose DJing because it was so much more fun. Probably the biggest thing I learned was like I work very well by myself.
Sidewalk Talk. Today I'm here with Hayden James.
Hello.
So full circle because I saw you in Sydney 2015 and then just
I forgot about this. Yeah, you did. Yeah. Wow.
So it's like every few years, and then tomorrow with your release, it's like I'm like beginning from your like early early days, and then middle, and then like your big album. So
we're connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you were born in Melbourne?
Born in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Lived there for like 6 years of my life. Then moved to Brisbane, then Sydney, then the UK, and then back to Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's job moved us around a bit.
What was his job?
He was kind of in like business management for a couple of different like transport companies and things like that. Like a global company. So yeah, we did that. But I've lived in Sydney most of my life.
Yeah. And your mom?
Mum was a school teacher. And she was also a musician, so I got a lot of like, I guess my talent from her. My dad he's tone deaf actually, so he likes music, and he knows what he likes, but he can't play anything. But Mum plays guitar and piano. And
like she was playing a lot of Spanish flamenco.
That's right, yeah. She would play like flamenco guitar and things like that. So from an early age, I was, I had instruments around me.
Was she teaching you flamenco guitar?
No. And I don't have the fingers for it, let's be honest.
Did she teach you instruments then?
She did. It was her and her father, my granddad, who taught me like a bit of jazz piano. But then when I was at school, I learned I would study jazz piano and guitar and saxophone.
Were you in a lot of bands? Like that sort, like more classical bands? Or?
Yeah, I was in like school bands and things like that. Yeah, so I did that a little bit.
Were you really into it?
Not really, because I quit. I quit saxophone because I didn't like the teacher. So I guess I must not have liked it. But I did it for 8 years, so that's an investment.
Yeah.
But then I kept up with the piano because I like play every day now and guitar too.
Were you taking lessons for like piano and guitar?
Not guitar, I was self-taught. Piano for a little bit. When I was in the UK, I finished school over there and I did like music theory classes and things, and that was based around like piano and jazz piano specifically. And
when you were 12, your brother showed you Daft Punk?
Yeah, that was Around the World. The single that came out, it's on the Discovery album, I'm pretty sure, which is my favorite album, and which has shaped a lot of not only why I make music, but how I make it and the sounds I use and all that kind of stuff.
Who else were you listening to like around that time for like more electronic music, or was it mostly?
That was it. Yeah. That was it. When I was young, it was like Daft Punk, like Chemical Brothers too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like Massive Attack as well, like that kind of vibe. But yeah, more like Daft Punk, Chemical Brothers. Yeah.
How do you describe your personality back then, growing up?
Good question. I had a lot of friends, and I was very active and just hanging out with neighborhood kids, and so I'd say friendly.
Yeah, you're really into sports?
Yes, yeah, definitely into sports. I played basketball and cricket and rugby. And,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Well,
being tall. Yeah.
Well, so you barely had much free time because you were doing the jazz stuff and then you were doing all your sports stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was a good upbringing, Like got to move around a lot, meet new friends, and I've got an older brother and a younger sister, so yeah, it was good.
Is your sister also into music?
She played violin for a little bit, and I think flute. But yeah, she's not into music. I mean, she loves music, but she doesn't pursue it as a career. No.
Did you really like school?
No, I didn't. No. I guess because of the way that they teach you there, I just didn't learn the way that they were teaching me. So I actually left I left school, like traditional school,
Yeah.
at the end of year 10 and went to a music school where they did, you know, math and science and all that kind of stuff, but also a lot of music classes.
Oh, so was that the Wimbledon, or that's farther down?
No, this one was the Australian Institute of Music.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you realized like back then that you wanted to do something?
Yeah, when I was like 15, 16, I'm like, let's start that. For sure.
And then I guess you went to Wimbledon, which is more of like a regular school, or?
That was back to regular school.
Yeah. Did you miss the music stuff that you learned so much before?
Not at that time, because I was still young, and I actually had some decks in London, so I would be able to like practice DJing and things like that back then.
Wow, how many years ago was that?
Like 10?
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of music were you playing like when you were DJing like 10 years ago?
I would listen to like a lot of Carl Cox and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
More like progressive house.
Yeah.
Tribal house kind of stuff. I couldn't even tell you the names of the artists, to be honest, but it was just more underground kind of stuff. Especially living in the UK, there's a lot of vinyl that I had access to. Yeah.
And were you performing at clubs at this age?
No. I started playing in clubs when I moved back to Sydney, when I was about 20. Yeah.
And then you went to study like audio engineering?
Yeah, so I finished school in the UK, came back to Sydney, and I did a degree in finance while I was DJing clubs, just for money. And then after that I did a degree in audio engineering.
Yeah. And
so
finance
I kind of moved around a bit.
Because of your dad.
Yeah, exactly. I just needed like a base, I guess, just to be like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to need a plan B. Yeah.
Did you like it at all?
Yeah, I did like it. I mean, I did it for 3 years. And it's given me kind of the tools I need to run my own business as well. Yeah.
And then what made you want to study audio engineering?
I guess it was like production as well. So it was like learning more about being a DJ and mixing live bands and things like that. But it was also just getting into the music scene itself. Did
you know from that point that you wanted to be like your own musician? Or when you were doing audio engineering, did you think you would do it for others? Do it for other people? Yeah,
I didn't ever want to do it really for other people. It was more for me. I didn't really have a massive goal of like, oh, I want to do this, I want to travel the world, I want to, make music and make a living out of it. It was more, I don't know, just something to do in the music scene.
What did your parents think of you wanting to have a career in music?
Really super supportive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the whole time. So my record came out today in Australia, and I messaged them like, thank you guys so much for the support all the time. Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So no, they're always very supportive. Yeah.
And looking back, do you think studying audio engineering really helped, like for the people who are watching who are thinking of it?
Not this course, to be honest, that I did. I'm being truthful. No, because it was not so much about music production, but like live bands and things like that. So it was a little bit different.
Well, then that really helped your like live performance then, or does it not translate?
A little bit. No, not too much. It was good. It was like good general base knowledge of how sound works in a live space.
Oh.
Yeah.
When you're doing your like live setup now, do some of the things like come to you that you learned back there? Like you're more aware of certain things than other musicians, do you feel?
Yeah, I've got a really great team who help me out with a lot of that kind of stuff in terms of what works and how things are routed and all that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of different instruments on stage for me, a lot of different hardware, synths and stuff, so it's important to figure out how they're played through the computer, because I'm sending a lot of things, sending a lot of MIDI to synths, and so it's a maze up there. Yeah. Do
you think living in London changed your inspiration for music early on, like compared to had you just lived in Sydney your whole life?
I think so, for sure.
Yeah. In what ways?
I think like especially London, there's so much culture there. Listening to even Fatboy Slim and stuff. I went and saw him play a couple of times, so I just wouldn't have had that opportunity, in Sydney at that time.
And were you already working with people in London, like in the studio?
No, I wasn't. So I was quite young still, and just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
So I wasn't playing in clubs or anything like that. It was more music technology classes at the school I was at. Yeah, that kind of thing.
But did you learn how to do more of like a studio work with a vocalist in school? Or was that
I did, yeah. So that's the kind of stuff I learned at the University of the School of Audio Engineering as well. Was like how to record, like techniques of recording, what styles of microphones you'd use. Yeah. So that's kind of that's the style of that kind of course.
And then when you went back to Sydney, how were you able to make your early connections? Like, did you know people in the music industry when you...
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And one of my first manager was my brother's friend.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, and I'd known him since I was like 10.
Yeah.
So, and he worked in a club, and that's how I started out, like, with a gig, basically. He was like, "Oh, you DJ, come and like, let's do this together." So yeah, it was an easy in, but I had to work for it. Yeah. After that.
Were you DJing like full time to pay your bills back then, or?
Yeah, it was like, because I was at university studying finance, and it was like either DJ for a couple of hours a week or work in a bar for like way longer. Yeah. So I chose DJing because it was so much more fun. So after that, it was like finished the university, finished SAE, was still DJing, and that's when I started writing music. Yeah. So
and how did you were originally a duo, right? Like way back when?
Yeah, way back. So I've been in, like, as you were saying before, I've been in like school bands, and I've been in like bands outside of that. We were signed to Future Classic, actually, the label that I'm on now. It was a band called Cadillac, so it was more like summery, like new disco, indie stuff. And then I was also in like a DJ duo too. We like traveled around Oz. And I learned a lot from like all of those relationships and those groups. And probably the biggest thing I learned was like, I work very well by myself. I do love collaborating with people, but it's very important for me to have my own voice as well. So yeah.
What kind of advice do you have for people who are considering either being a duo or by themselves?
Know yourself. Yeah. Like, figure out what you're good at, and like, if it is a friend of yours and you're like, let's do this together, and you've got the same work ethic, that's really important. Do you both have the same goal? That's super important. You've got to sit down and think about that. Yeah.
So I guess from the onset, your music is kind of already had that summery vibe, right? Even when you were in the early duo. Yeah. How did you lock into that sound so early on? Because I feel like people take so long, and you were able to do it like right off the bat when you had your duo.
Living in Australia, really, that's the key. It was, literally like it's the lifestyle you lead, I guess, is like a huge contributor to who you are as a person, how you act, and like what you're influenced by. So for me, it was like living close to a beach, like being very active, and being, Australia's a beautiful place. It's very summery and chill. So yeah.
Was that style of music already popular in Australia, like when you first started putting out music, like even as a duo?
Just trying to think. Like, I do remember Rufus the Soul were. They had their first like EP out when I just started thinking about writing music, and that was cool. So that was like summery. Then there was, trying to think, there was like a group called the Presets, which is way more techno-y, like song based but techno-y. A group called Cut Copy.
Oh yeah.
You know Cut Copy? Yeah. So they were around. They were pretty big as well, very big at the time. And then Miami Horror and stuff. So yeah, there were those kind of groups around the time that I started writing. Yeah.
And how did you realize Future Classic was the right fit early on?
They're just cool. I've met the guys a couple of times before I signed to them. They're super passionate about what they do. They had signed some really great acts that I also loved. They just kind of got their head on their shoulders and like figured it out. And I didn't want to be part of a major label, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to make my own decisions with a smaller group of people, and that's what I did.
And did you figure out your branding really early on? Because I feel like it's so cohesive, even from the first single with the graphic design music video.
Yeah. For me, it's like what you hear, it's like what you see is nearly as important as what you hear. So it needed to be the right look, the right style. And I've been working with the same artist, Tim Lovett, since Something About You.
Oh, wow.
So what you'll see with the artwork of the album Between Us is like kind of a combination of like everything that we've been working on for years, kind of all put into one. And it's like the end of the story, like the closing of that chapter of that book, and yeah, I think it's a great look when you see it all together.
Yeah,
it works.
Do you have specific?
It's cohesive, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have specific art? Do you have a specific, like a director or a non-music artist that you're inspired by, or movies?
Good question. I watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of good movies. I love like watching The Rock in like a disaster film or something, just shit like that. I don't know. But no, some of my favorite movies are like any Tarantino film.
Oh my god, yeah.
But I love Scorsese as well. Yeah, classic stuff that all, my kind of person would like. But and books, I mean, I read a lot of like music books, like there's one by David Byrne called How Music Works.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. Yeah, I read a lot of that kind of stuff. I really liked the Moby autobiography, not the one that just came out. It was called Play, and it follows his life up to the point basically of when the album Play was released, which is pretty cool. Pretty crazy story.
Yeah. Now I want to read it.
Yeah.
Was it surprising to you how fast your first songs really took off compared to like when you were doing music, like DJing all those years, and all of a sudden like it takes off?
I think I was surprised, but also it was the first time I was doing something by myself for myself. It was like being more true to myself than anything I'd done before. So I guess that's also why it worked so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did the Katy Perry happen?
Yeah, so she emailed me, or like her group emailed my manager at the time and said, hey Hayden, we love like Something About You, and we love Just a Lover. We'd love you to come and write with Katy for our album. She's in Santa Barbara, we'll fly you out. And we thought it was a joke. So I think we left it for like a week or something.
No way.
And then we realized, oh, actually this is legit. So yeah, went there, spent 2 weeks with her.
Oh wow.
It was incredible. We probably wrote like 4 or 5 songs, and yeah, one was released on her album Witness.
Do you feel like you had extra pressure because it was Katy Perry, or a year?
100%.
Oh yeah.
I was so nervous. I wrote like 50 different instrumentals to go in with. So yeah, no, there's a lot of prep involved, and just but once I met her and we spent like the first couple of hours together, it was great. Yeah.
Can you go through your mindset of writing your recent album, like where you were, how do you assemble your team?
Yeah, so I actually started writing this like 2 years ago, basically.
Oh wow.
It's been a long journey, like from the day dot of like I want to write a record. So yeah, I ended up with like 30 or 40 demos to pick from, all in different kind of states, I guess. Like some finished, complete demos, some just ideas still. But yeah, I mean, it was important for me to find the right people to work with too.
Yeah, how do you just select on those?
Well, I loved writing with people who I'd written with before, so like Boy Matthews, Nat Dunn, who is Nations as well, she's on the record. But yeah, I don't know, it's just, for me, it's important to be in the room with that person too. Not just like send something to someone, they come back with the top line, it's done. I don't think that works for me.
Yeah.
It's just not genuine. So to have that connection, to have that personal connection in the studio is super important.
And what were the main themes and inspirations?
Like everything I've released, it's like, it follows a story of love. Not like, some of them are personal to me and some of them are not. I kind of like to let the listeners have their own story as well, because it affects them in different ways to me. So yeah, there's lots of different themes in there, but mostly it's about that personal connection, that feeling you have with someone special, and that's why it's called Between Us. So it can be between you and me, it can be between you and your family member, it can be a friend. Yeah. So yeah, it's like love, loss, lust, hope, lots of different things.
Do you feel like you had a lot of like added pressure going into it for like this big album?
I did, yeah. That's probably why it took so long as well. I feel like,
it's so good, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been listening to this stuff for 2 years, so yeah, it's exciting. And a lot of the stuff was written. I'd say half of the tracks on the album were written within 6 months. So it's like stuff that's fresh. But some of the ideas are like 2 years old.
How did you realize it was like the right time that you were like sealing all the songs and then putting it out?
It was pretty awesome. Like going, okay, so I was in the studio with the guy who I mix and do some production with, Cassian, And yeah, I think I was like, had 18 demos at the time. We're like, okay, like, I was like, okay, I need to figure out what the album is, like how this works together, what the track listing would be like, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, once I did that, it was kind of a much easier process to finish everything. It was just more like right in front of me, and yeah, that was it. But it took, it took a long time. And a lot of the time I was like, am I going to get this done? Because, once you say, I've got an album, it's going to come out at this time, you've got to deliver it, because you've got tour announcements, you've got PR, press, you've got label, like everyone's working for you and with you, and you don't want to let anyone down. Yeah.
How about for the style of the individual songs in the album? Like, did you feel like going into this album, I mean, you're not really succumbed to like trends or anything, but was there anything in the back of your mind? Because like,
no, for me it was like song based. You had all the tracks have to be songs in their own right, and kind of be able to stand by themselves as well. That was really important. But also they have to be cohesive in that they need to work together too, so they need to have that similar theme or similar production. I didn't want this album to be a departure of my sound from the last singles as well. It was important for all these songs to be a story, like even though I didn't put Something About You on the record, it still belongs on there. It's still in that vibe. Yeah.
Do you feel like your style of music isn't really succumbed to trends the way like trap or dubstep is?
100%, and I think that's based on the
fact. That's really lucky. Like, it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah, my God, I know some artists that have gone one way, like hard. And then that genre is just not cool anymore. It's just no one listens to it, and it's like, all right, well, that's done. It's difficult. I think for me, I guess the plus side for me and how I look at music is I write songs first, and then figure out how they sound later. But again, I keep it really simple. The production itself of the song. I want people to be able to play this stuff on a guitar if they want, at a party. It's like, so that's, I don't really, there's no like trend, I guess. It's like, pop electronic music, but there's no huge element that's like, oh, he always like chops his vocals, or he always like, there's all different stuff in there.
So what do you have in mind for the live tour for Between Us?
Best production I've ever like come up with, to be honest.
I'm so excited.
I'm pumped. I was actually in Sydney last week, and premiered it for the first time, like the idea of it. So yeah, really excited. It worked, which is cool. Me and the team have been spending like 6 months working on it. The show itself, I'm doing a lot more. I'm playing a lot more keys and things that I ever have before. I'm becoming much more. I just like, it's quite nerve-wracking doing things live, because you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna screw it up. Because I'm a producer as well. I don't sit there and play guitar in front of 1,000 people. I just don't do that. So I'm doing more of that, which is cool. And also, I've got a lot of the people on the record as well. They'll be touring with me around the States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've got Nat Dunn, Far, who is Romeo, who sings on Lost to You. Boy Matthews is going to come play at a couple of shows. So yeah, there's
that makes
lots
such a big
on.
difference with the singing element.
Oh, it's
shows.
cool.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
So cool.
I mean, when I go and see someone, they've got the person who sang the song on the record. I'm like, yes.
So different.
It's cool. Yeah.
Actually, going back a bit, how did you meet ODESZA?
We met, I'm just trying to think, it's like one of those old friends, you're like, I don't know, we just know each other. I do know, we met in Melbourne about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
We were playing this small little festival, and yeah, as soon as we met, we're just like, I think we're going to be best friends. And it just, we've kind of hung out ever since.
How would you say you've grown as a person compared to when you were younger?
I guess, I don't know, I grow with the people that I'm with. So like my wife, my friends, the people who I hang out with and choose to hang out with. I think I'm the same. In my head, I'm always like, I don't know, like 15 or something.
Oh, really?
I love hanging out, and I always have fear of missing out of me not being somewhere and all my friends hanging out, so yeah, kind of the same. What would you say have been the biggest challenges so far in your life? This record, I think, like just figuring out if I wanted to release it and how I wanted to release it and what it sounded like and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely, this record's been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Just because of the pressure, or?
Not the pressure. I never really felt pressure. It was more about I want to be proud of it, so I don't want to be pressured into like releasing something that is not right for me just because you need to release something.
Yeah.
And that's why it's taken me so long, I guess, too.
What does love mean to you?
Everything. Love is like a central part of my life, and it is. I look at my life like pillars, just like, you know, health, love, like relationships. And love is absolutely like everything to me.
Yeah. What do you love about your wife's personality?
She's just so much fun, spontaneous. She's like me. We're kind of kindred spirits.
Oh.
She's very creative and is always up for something, you know. She's teaching me so much every day as well. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
That's a hard last question. Yeah. As another question is, do you want to be remembered? I don't know.
That's also a good
No,
question.
it'd be nice to be remembered, wouldn't it? I think for my music, of course. And I hope that it lives on longer than I'm around, and or just if I stop one day, I hope people still enjoy it and listen to it. And it's a positive vibe in their life.
Yeah, I love that. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.